elected bench of progressive prosecutors. But now the movement is under attack. Our opponents are portraying us as soft on crime. They're weaponizing slogans like defund the police.
Right.
What do we as progressive organizers, what lessons do we have to take from 2021 into 2022, message-wise and campaign tactic-wise?
Understand that politicians always want to demagogue crime. It's an age-old thing. And after the civil unrest of the 1960s, well, put it like this, in 1964, Barry Goldwater, he lost so bad that people thought the Republicans were done as a party. And then 4 years later, Nixon wins. How does that happen? Well, they antagonized people's fears around crime, racialized crime in particular. And they whipped it up. And they said, well, you know, there's danger, that we want law and order. And because people, all human beings crave security, right? All human beings want to be safe. It's not a left-right thing or a right thing. Nobody wants anybody kicking through their window to attack them. We all stand opposed to, you know, people who are sex trafficked or raped or violently attacked, or we are against these things. And so as human beings, we want to be safe. What we need to understand as a progressive, people-oriented movement is that it is nothing wrong with people wanting to be safe. People should want to be safe. But how do you create safety for people? You create safety for people by creating a just society, by making sure people have a place to live, enough to eat, by making sure that when they do engage agents of the state who are designated as law enforcement, that the treatment they receive is based on justice, based on respect, and that there's no extrajudicial violence or extrajudicial abuse people have to suffer through, and that there's accountability. And when officers do that, I mean, we're still on planet Earth, and we're still dealing with the human race. People will do things that are wrong, but when they do, what happens? One of the biggest problems in the world with policing and police brutality is that the system doesn't respond to rout out the bad actors, right? You know, so what I would say is we need to fight for a well-resourced society in areas other than just, you know, traditional policing. You know, like, for example, I'll give you a couple of examples. Forgive me, stop me if I go on too long, because I'm a politician.
All good, brother.
I'm a politician and a lawyer, so I talk too damn much. But let me just say, I just got off a call earlier today in Miami-Dade where they set up a mental health diversion court. Now, look, I love my progressives, and I know that if I say anything good about anything, 20 people are going to run and say how much it's not good. And we got to do stuff like that. But just on this issue of mental health, they are diverting people. They've reduced violent contacts. They have put people in a situation where they're getting the help that they need, including medication and housing, and things have gotten a lot better. And let me just say, the police department of Miami has had a horrible history. The first person to say when the looting starts, the shooting starts, was not Donald Trump. It was actually a police chief named Walter Headley in 1968. And then there was the McDuffie, they call them McDuffie riots. It's because police brutality creates civil unrest, which results in destruction of property and lives, creates dead people, you know, creates injured people, destroys trust, and it creates civil judgments. And Minneapolis, my town, has paid out $70 million in civil judgments over the last 10 years because of police misconduct. $70 million. We could have filled every pothole, put lighting on every street. We could have set up after-school programs. We could have made sure, think of all the wonderful things. We could have put some job programs together. So these young guys or women who don't seem to have enough to do, they're just hanging out, set up a jobs program for them with the money that you're saving because you're not engaging in police misconduct. So what do we do? I advocate community-led nonviolent violence reduction patrols. So let me just tell you what I'm talking about. There's this group called the 21 Days of Peace. These are a bunch of Black pastors who said, look, we know there's been a spike in violent crime because COVID quarantine has spiked all kinds of violence, self-harm, suicides, drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, and of course, street violence too. We are going through a traumatic experience with COVID. And so rather than say, yeah, call in the cops, build up the jails, they've said, we're going to go sit on the hottest corners in North Minneapolis, and we're going to occupy space. And they're mostly young, the young guys, they're mostly guys who are out angry and want to hurt each other. We're just going to make it difficult for them to do so because nobody wants to shoot at somebody you got a beef with a bunch of neighbors sitting around. And crime has begun to inch down. People are alive because of it. It takes guts to do this. This is not something where you want to pontificate about the finer points of, German philosophers. This is real stuff, right? But if we do these nonviolent, interveners, this could be a very, very good thing. And even if you don't want to do it yourself, supporting it can be very, very helpful. And so you put that together with mental health criminal diversion courts, you put that together with, using more videotape of officers and showing them this is unacceptable. You start prosecuting criminal cops and firing bad cops. Now, I don't believe you should prosecute bad cops. I think you should prosecute criminal cops. But if you got officers who are just bad at their job, they're not good at it, you got to get them out. And you got to get somebody in who believes in actually protecting people. And you have to have non-coercive people who are not armed, who can deal with mental health crisis, the challenges of the unhoused. You do that, you're going to have a safe community. So these people talking about, tough on crime, it's not tough on crime. It's always been smart on crime. And I could go on longer, Joe, but I mean, my point is the basic idea is we should, as a movement, talk about public safety. When the society fails to meet the needs of the people, the material and psychological needs of the people, and it robs them of dignity, people who don't have a political analysis will lash out at each other. And we can't just let it happen or just write it off as something that doesn't matter. We've got to engage. But how do we engage? We engage with meeting human need, addressing mental health crises, addressing 18-year-old guys who are so lacking in confidence and a sense of achievement that the slightest insult to them online is going to evoke a violent response. That's a real deal. That happens. But what is our response to it? Our response to it needs to be humane. Our response needs to not be more prisons and more violent police who are not even trained any better. It's not a matter of tough. Some of these young people, this society has treated them so harshly that they get tough now. If you want to come at them with toughness, you can't threaten them with prison. They're not scared of it. And they know people in prison. And in a country that has 2.5 million people in prison, you better believe they got friends and family in prison. So you can't scare them with that. But what you might do is to say, you know what? I see the potential in you. I see your humanity. We're going to actually set up some things that are going to make you have a chance to hope for your better future. And they're going to be investments in you and in who you are. You do that, you ain't going to have no crime problem.